Hi, ladies and men. We are at our fifth talk on Moses, and we left him with his face hidden. One time we left him by the well, of course, so you can see a real difference in Moses. When he was in Egypt, if he had heard God call, he would not have hidden his face. He would not have been that humble. But after 40 years in the wilderness, he was humbled. You see God's work. You see God changing people, being sure that people are all that he had planned them to be before we can really be used. The fact that God is the only one I know that will not accept second best from Janette Stone. I tried to manipulate. I tried to talk him out of not making me all that he would want me to be, because it could be too painful, maybe. I was too afraid, maybe. But I have learned the whole world can be afraid. The whole world can be dreading the future. But there's no excuse, no reason for a Christian to. We never have to live with dread. We never have to worry. God truly will do what God has planned to do. We can trust him. And he reminded Moses when he called out, right? I am the Father, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He was reminding Moses who he was. So he can remind us sometimes of just who he is. So we will listen to him. So we will see that we don't have to dread. We don't have to be afraid. And we'll see God revealing himself even more intimately with Moses than he had with any other of those other men that I just named. He walked beside him so very, very closely. But he had to remind Moses to begin with him. The same he has to do with us. Now, it had been 400 years of slavery in Egypt since the time of these men that God talked about. But God was very much at work at that time. When God called, he responded completely differently. He hid his face. I'm not worthy, I'm sure he felt. God talking to me? He was afraid to even look at God. There are those of us sometimes are afraid to even come close to him. We will know that maybe we should spend time, at least bending our mind a little toward him, or talking to him, or picking up maybe the Bible, and we literally will not. We will do anything from what? Washing the car, washing the clothes, doing anything but that. We will run from it in some ways, rather than grabbing hold of the time, the same way that Moses did. He was afraid to look at God. Sometimes we are afraid to get closer to him. But God says, look at him, spend time with him. Let's go to verse 7, chapter 3 of Exodus. Then the Lord said, I've surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But now, behold, the cry of the people has come to me, and I've seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. So God makes it very evident that he knows everything that's going on. Even today, when we see today, and there are many people who are fearing today. We're seeing maybe a let up on the virus and a cure and a way to live through this. But we see many things, other things happening, and we think the Lord does not know this. The Lord does not see the sadness, the grieving that's going on. God does. and God will work through it. And so God says, this is amazing to me. This is amazing. God says, okay, he has seen all the oppression, right? And so he has come, God has come to do something about this, right? But then verse 10, he says, come, I will send you. I'm sure Moses' mouth dropped open. Come, I will send you. I will send you to Pharaoh, Moses, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now God said, God, had come down because he'd seen the oppression. He knew all that was going on. And because I've seen it, Janette, Kathy, Justine, whomever, Bob, I'm going to send you to do something about it. Oh, but God, you said you came down to do that. I did, he says to us. And I'm going to use you to do it. There are times, of course, God can do all things. God could have delivered them. But he uses people often. This is how he gets things done. And oftentimes, he may want to use you. He may want to use me. God says, I have come. Then he says, I will send you. Has God ever said that to you? After 40 years of chasing sheep, so Moses was not the same self-confident individual he was before. He needed to be humbled and not to be as cocky as he was in order to be used. God uses humble people. Humble people can be leaders. Leadership, and that's what Moses was going to become, an amazing leader, are always humble, are always willing to listen to people, are always willing to take suggestions, are always willing to be asked questions about things. That's a good leader. First of all comes being humbled, and Moses was. The reason I think that God says to us and to Moses, said to Moses, I have come, meaning God has come, because he wants us to focus on him, not ourselves. The reason we may do whatever we do is because God is doing it through you. You are an instrument of him. Moses is an instrument of God. So God wants our attention to be focused on him. Let's look and see what else goes on. Poor Moses. So I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Verse 11. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? Who am I to do this grand work? Moses would never have asked that question while he was in the palace. He would have thought he was more than capable, by the way, all by himself. He had to know, see, that he had needs. He himself, Moses, had needs that God could fill. God never answers that question about who Moses was. Look what God answered. It's very telling, I think. There are times in our lives, I think, that God doesn't tell us who we are. But he does tell us something else that's very important. Who am I, said Moses, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? God said, but I will be with you. And this shall be the sign for you, that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. The very mountain where they were then, Moses was going to serve God on that mountain. And the sign that was going to be given that the children of Israel could see was what? That God was with him. The sign that we give people as we are doing whatever we are doing is the sign that God is with us. And how do we show the sign, show that God is with us? Is by living that truth. Then people recognize that. The fact that God said, this is a sign, I will be with you. And that should have been enough. That should be enough for all of us. But Moses had a self-esteem problem. But you know what? That problem was completely ignored by God. The real question that Moses should have asked, not who am I that I should be used, but who is God that he's walking beside me, that he's with me? God? Who are you, God? And you're with me, Janette Stone? With Kathy? No. Who is this person that's with me? So our minds are not so much on us. It's on God. And if we have him with us, there is nothing we cannot do. If God has called us to do something, even take all of the people out of Egypt, if God has called us to do it and asked us to do it and is walking beside us, we can do it, no matter what it might be. No matter what talk I'm to speak, no matter whatever he might call you to do, raise that family, be married to that person, be whatever it could be. If we have a true sense that God is with us, then we wouldn't be so timid, to be so slow, to ask so many questions of God before we go ahead and do something. And if you don't sense that God is with you, remember I said before, to ask not, you have not because you ask not for, Jesus says. So if you don't sense God's presence, tell him that. I don't feel you're with me. I don't feel that you're walking beside me. Dear Father, have me feel that, have me know that. He will answer that question. He truly will. And then you will know. Let me know when that happens. I will be with you, says God. God's identity is more important than Moses's was. God's identity of who God is, especially in today's world, is more important than who you are. We don't have to prove ourselves as long as we have God right with us. Moses moved right back to having no faith. It was amazing to me that seeing the burning bush that wasn't burning up, having God speak to you through the bush, having God know your name, Moses, Moses. Having God saying, I hear the groanings of my people. I'm going to do something about it, and I want to send you. And he hid his face. Then it was what Moses said to God, who am I? He turned his attention right to himself. How many times our attention is so self-centered that we are self-centered. And so we're unable to do all that God has planned us to do. That God will do it through us. We'll use a person. Then, what happened? Verse 13, Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. He did not explain himself. He just said, I am. And that was to be enough. I am who I am reveals that there's no equal to God. how do you ever explain to God? How do you ever explain to God that you can't receive that He just is? That He has to describe Himself better than just revealing Himself to you? It is said in 1 John, of course, that God is love. Yes, He is love, but love is not God, and there is a difference. Many people think love is God, and that is their God, love. It isn't. Yeah, God is love, has love, but He's more than that. He's bigger, even bigger than that. So He says, I am. Jesus said, I am often. He says, I am the light. I am the bread of life. I am the good shepherd. I am, Jesus said. So we're going to leave Moses standing there. I wonder how far out his face has gotten as he's talking to God. As God is getting him ready to do this big task and equipping him to do. What is God equipping you to do this day? Have a good day. Bye-bye.